Yep. Let's see.
What's good, guys?
What's going on?
Happy day.
Let's see what Awaken has to say to make you laugh and to think about Awakenjp, what he has to say about the Maui fires. He's saying what they don't want you to know about the fire. So I want to see if he has anything outside of that I don't know already. But I always go to him to get a good little laugh and a thought.
So see, we having your way to look at stuff different.
Good evening, future slave to the globalists. Michelle Obama is a man.
It's a man.
Wait a minute.
And we have an intriguing lineup of news that will definitely tell you the truth about tonight. Including there's new women's powerlifting records being set, Big Tech's latest silencing of conservatives, there's something suspicious about Maui's wildfires, and much more.
But look at his shirt. What is going on with his...
Why? He done got beat up, huh?
Ripped up.
Here that will make you a worse person. But first, after Obama's biographer uncovered letters that he wrote to an ex-girlfriend where he says he repeatedly fantasized about making love to men, more specificity has come out. The former president and current wife of Michael Obama wrote to an ex-girlfriend saying, "I make love to men daily, but in the imagination," which is beautifully in line with how Obama was a great president, but in the imagination. And when the former president isn't sodomizing men in his imagination, he's having his personal chef wind up dead in reality. We're confident the chef died of old age at a young age, incredibly natural causes. This chef certainly didn't hear something he wasn't supposed to, nor is it possible that he caught Michelle in an untucked moment. Our condolences to the chef and his family, and also a nod of respect to the Obamas for all their hard work that went into raking out Hillary Clinton's footprints that may or may not have been all over the scene of the crime. In other news, Big Tech has silenced one of the top conservative voices in the nation, Glenn Beck. To defend our banana republic against democracy, Apple removed his podcast from iTunes.
Wow.
Apple explained everything to Glenn Beck in detail by saying, "We found an issue with your show. Now we're sorry if that's too specific and too nuanced for..."
See, that's messed up.
That is. Look
That
how much
is
power.
messed
Look how
up.
that power. Sorry.
Freedom of speech.
It's not in this country. It's not free.
my
It's not free what it's supposed to be. I was hearing it won't be free like how it's supposed to be probably for 20 years from now.
Speak at your own risk, in other words.
It is.
For you to follow. But what was the issue? Well, Beck's next episode of the podcast that was set to be released was entitled Trump vs. Biden, which is the crime family? And we're sure that wasn't the issue. We speculate that Beck simply didn't have enough diversity, equity, and inclusion on his show. He had no representation for 71 out of the 73 known pretend genders, and we consider that a crime. And the world of women's powerlifting just got a lot stronger. A lovely lady named Anne Andres set Canadian national records and a world record during a recent powerlifting meet. It was there that she beat the second place lifter by 463 pounds, which is an oddly irregular margin of victory. Anne's total also would have placed her amongst the top male lifters at the meet. Now, believe it or not, Anne, who is excelling in a women's sporting event by suspicious margins, was born a man. Brave. And back in February, Anne took to Instagram writing, "Why is women's bench so bad? I mean, standard bench and powerlifting competitions for women. I literally don't understand why it's so bad." Well, Anne, it really is hard to understand why it's so bad compared to your lifts. We're going to assign our top scientists to see if they can look past the increased levels of testosterone, bone density, muscle mass, and structural shape advantages that men have that don't make a difference, to see if we can discover why the women's bench is so bad compared to yours. Most likely it's because they don't try as hard as you do. And if we can get women completely banned from women's sports, then we'll finally get to see the competitive standards elevated to what they should be. Next up in the news, after Maui experienced the deadliest wildfire in U.S. history, there are some suspicious questions being asked. And certainly none of them were answered by President Biden, who did take a break from dealing with the emergency of his beach vacation to refuse to comment on Maui.
That's it. Any comments on the rising death toll in Maui?
The very youthful Biden is old enough that Hawaii wasn't even a
He did it. He was like,
state for the first 17 years of his life, so he may not have gotten the memo that it is part of the U.S. now. And as many lives were lost in the fires, the Hawaii governor and others wasted no time pointing the finger of blame for the wildfires at climate change. The elites know to never let a good crisis go to waste, and at other times they seem to cause the crisis that they don't let go.
But when you think about it, remember we were reviewing the history of like, was it slavery in Hawaii? Remember we were going over something about that, and it was showing how people came and it was a conquer for Hawaii, and they brought in all the industries and stuff like that. So they made it elitist, and then the local Hawaiian people couldn't afford it then. So think about it now, how they're like, okay, now it's our time. We hit that mark. Now it's time to get it completely to where to elite level. I mean, now when you think about it,
Crazy.
To waste. Is this the case in Maui? Some speculate that a directed energy weapon, or DEW, was used to intentionally start the fire so that a World Economic Forum friendly, climate change fighting 15-minute city could be built upon the destroyed town of Lahaina. This doesn't make sense though, because back in January there was a meeting held on Maui about turning it into a 15-minute city. Wait a minute. That would actually make it make more sense. However, with the mainstream media working in lockstep with each other to discredit the conspiracy theory about the wildfires, using familiar terms to smear the theory such as baseless conspiracy theory and misinformation that come right out of their playbook, you can be sure that the idea is completely false, because the fact checkers said it was false. And for future reference, anytime the same media simultaneously uses the same discrediting terminology that they used on Hunter Biden's laptop, Epstein being killed in his jail cell, and the lab leak reality on something, you can be sure that what they're discrediting is in fact nothing but baseless information that most likely poses a danger to people.
So I dropped a video on Snapalytical
okay,
about where they think started the Maui fires.
okay,
And one residence there had saw where a power line had gone down and got started the fire in the grass.
yeah,
So it's something so small where the power line went down in the grass, it was so dry, and it wasn't been able to tend to right away. In a matter of seconds, it spread based off the wind. So that's one.
I'm gonna say.
And I was like, dang, how? Because it started here, and then it just shows you said like a line. He saw it. He just sat there, and then just whoosh, the wind blew it, and it just went down, you know.
I don't believe it went that crazy that quick. How did it just be that? How did it just get timed like that around
You have
that?
to watch the video on my channel.
Okay, I'll take a look.
And it's also probably a threat to our democracy. So that's what they're doing with Maui. Certainly erases any suspicion if you're letting us control your thoughts the way you should. But what do we, the thought police, have to say to people like truth seeker Alex Zeck, who points out about the Maui wildfires? Fire hydrants were dry. Fire marshals were out of town that night. The mayor and governor were out of town. People who were trying to evacuate were told it was not time to evacuate and to turn around back into the fire. No cops with bullhorns. No firefighters in the streets. The most robust emergency siren system in the world did not sound. No warnings whatsoever. Anomalies with reported wind directions that don't scientifically add up. School was canceled. Children were home while parents worked. Hundreds of children burned alive. A perfect circle of fire around Lahaina. Molten metal next to intact trees. Media reporting fractions of real numbers. New insurance policies taken out on Lahaina before the fires.
Whoa.
Wild how all this new uninhabitable land that only big developers can afford to clean up opened up for the plans of turning Maui into a smart island with billionaire funding. Well, to these completely baseless points, I say this. In the words of our great president, no comment. And rounding out today's mental manipulation, You may have heard Oliver Anthony's new song, Rich Men North of Richmond. It's become the #1 song in the country and is closing in on 20 million views.
Wow.
It's being heralded as the voice of the working class people who are sick and tired of the corruption in DC infringing on their lives. But, spoiler alert, that's all misinformation. Our fact checkers have concluded that everything mentioned in his song is in fact baseless. What the correct thinking is that Oliver Anthony is a far-right extremist, and anyone who likes his music is also an extremist.
Wow.
Racist, transphobe, homophobe, misogynist. His words are literally violence. There's an old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. Not on our watch. We're here to help you get weak enough so that words will break your bones. The more you watch us, your captors who truly do care about you, the more you're helped by being infected with what's basically osteoporosis for your mind. If you're at a point where words do break your bones, then you get an A+ for obedience. That's it for tonight's news. Thank you for watching. Now, go get a couple dozen more boosters.
Oh my God. Now that scene, oh man.
Don't use light bulbs, gas stoves, gas cars, religion, or feed your family, or breathe air. But mostly
Right.
don't ask any questions, because we've got people to kill and a climate to save. Good
Wow.
night.
Look at that. Lies you can trust. Don't believe your own thinking. I'm like, okay. For
That's-
real though.
that's crazy.
That's when it needs to be on the news, because that's how them folks coming.
Nope. What you see in real life ain't real.
Man,
it's an illusion. Don't
it's
believe
just
what you're thinking.
amazing of how he shares the information, and it just be spot on.
Yeah.
I am still investigating about what they're saying about Maui, but go to Snap Political. That video will be dropping in the next day or two about it. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, so what are they saying that started it?
Yeah.
So,
But there were multiple. I was listening to a podcast, and they said there were multiple scenarios they're saying it started. They talked about one you mentioned, but they were like, but there was other ones.
well, plainly you can see the man recording it. You see it. It's a visual. He just didn't say it. He showed you. He was right across the street from it and saw it ignite. And him and his family had to go in the water. That was horrible. Oh, so sad.
But so you saying now is the start?
That's what he says. He thinks it possibly could have. And how it spread so fast was the wind. That's what he said. You see it. It was right here, and then it just went like a strip in a straight line based off that wind, and just blew it and took off. And next thing you know, he's like, it's just engulfed. So
in the windiest point, I don't know.
just think about the California fires.
I'm skeptic.
How does it start? It starts at one small area, and then by the next day, it's a massive, people having to evacuate their homes because the whole forest is starting to blaze. Why? Because of the wind. It's catching and it's spreading it. It's the dry, all of that. So I don't know. It's possible.
It's possible. I mean, I don't think that's something that's ever going to come out and say, this is concrete what happened.
Will they be able to tell? Will they know?
Right. By the end, the smart city will be up.
See, I have to dig further. But yeah.
But that's been inconsistency. All right. Awakenjp, man.
That was good.
Like, comment, subscribe. Don't take a nosedive. Comment down in the section below if you want some more. We got to go. Bye.